Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today's July 15th, and right now you can see that we've got that ridge of high pressure out over the Pacific Ocean. You can see the clockwise rotation here, and also yesterday's system that came by cooled things down across the region, brought some strong winds, some thunderstorm activity. We'll take a look at that in some detail here in a moment, and we'll see what is to come as we go through this week and in towards next weekend. So taking a look here, you can see that high pressure again there. This is looking at 18,000 feet, 500 millibars. There is that ridge of high pressure, and there is the system that brought those very strong winds for some locations, mainly towards Omak and the Okanagan River Valley out there, northeast Washington. It's also going to still be kicking off some winds today. We'll be taking a look at that as well. If I put that into motion, you can see that system sliding off to the east here. The ridge still kind of dominating out over the Pacific Ocean, but you see we get another inside slider here going as we go through Wednesday and into Thursday. Very weak system there, and then maybe one more here as we go through the weekend, kicking some onshore flow back on. And maybe some light precipitation trying to work its way down towards Washington State. I'll show you more on that here in a moment. But you can see the ridge out here over the Gulf of Alaska. And again, this troughing kind of sticking around as we go on in towards next week, at least the early portion of it. Now, if I scroll back and forth here, we're going to go towards yesterday morning. And you can see we did have some smoke out there as well. And if I go through the day, you see the thunderstorm activity coming from north to south across British Columbia. There is that cold frontal system, and that's what brought the onset of those winds across the region. If I keep scrolling out there, you can see some of these clouds that moved across western Washington, and you might have noticed the temperature dropped off in the midday period yesterday. If you're across Seattle, for example, then the sun cleared and we actually warmed back up a couple degrees across western Washington. So yeah, we did feel some of the cooling effects from that frontal system, and again, some strong winds out there brought some smoke down into the region and some blowing dust even, and some very strong winds again. And you can see that some thunderstorm activity here across northeast Washington, Idaho Panhandle as we went through the nighttime hours, kicking off to the east there across some portions of northwest Montana. And here we are this morning right now. Glorious sunshine out there for a lot of the Puget Sound, southwest BC. Very warm day today coming up, and an even warmer day tomorrow. We'll take a look at some of those temperatures here in a moment. You see the stratus layer just clipping portions of northwest Oregon and mostly missing there. You might see that layer out on the Oregon coast if you look out over the water. But the Willamette Valley, nice and clear this morning as well. Also, I want to point this out. You can see this is the Cram Fire there across some of Oregon. And you can see some of the smoke drifting off to the east associated with that. And if you look at the infrared, you can see actually the black area there, just showing the heat and the burn scar area of that fire. So yeah, there we go. It is fire season here, folks. And if we take a look at the high resolution rapid refresh, we'll put this into motion and we'll see what is coming today. You can see with the northeast winds, that smoke is moving back towards the Oregon Cascades, and you can still see that fire across British Columbia just north of the Washington border. That smoke starting to drift back off to the south as well. Doesn't look like, in fact, let's look at the vertically integrated smoke there, and it didn't look like as much smoke as what was being progged yesterday coming out of that fire. So I know people across western Washington aren't going to complain about that, not having that smoke drift back in the area. But you can see portions of central Oregon, eastern Oregon, definitely dealing with some more smoke. Portions of Idaho, a couple fires out there as well. It is that time of the year. And this is Spokane National Weather Service last night, Tuesday. Gusty northeast winds. You see gusts at 30 miles per hour. So watch out for that. Some crosswinds out there, some blowing dust, elevated weather fire conditions, some choppy lakes. You guys know the drill. And this is Spokane. So you can kind of see they showed the smoke and the blowing dust move southward towards Moses Lake, and they kind of show a quick time lapse so you can kind of see the clouds moving in there and the hazy skies associated with some of that smoke. So yeah, we did have that frontal system move through. Now back to that in a moment, but look at this. We got the heat advisory, and this really shows the new forecast zones for western Washington. You see when you look at these valley areas, and now these heat advisories are nice and trimmed just exactly to where the terrain features are. So if you're outside of those valley areas, you're not in that heat advisory, but you are under a fire weather watch across some of the Cascades or west slopes, 1,500 feet and above. And I'll show you more on that here in a moment. But yeah, those are the new forecast zones. You can kind of see how it carves out into our terrain features quite nicely. Glad to see that there. And if we take a look here, The fire weather watch here, it does include areas, again, generally above 1,500 feet. But yeah, so watch out for that. Be careful not to ignite any fires out there. I think you get some rapid spread of those fires there if they do occur. And same thing for Oregon here as well. We do that heat advisory for some of the Willamette Valley. There's Eugene, there's Salem, and there's Portland International Airport right there. So taking a look at yesterday, the max wind gusts. Let's see if this will update for us. There we go. Take a look at this. Some of these winds gusting up over 66, 68 miles per hour, and some very gusty winds down towards Moses Lake as well. If I click on that, we'll look at Oroville, 68 miles per hour. That is just an incredible gust, 59 knots. If I click on this one here, this is Omak Airport. It looks like 66 miles per hour, 57 knots. Very strong winds. Wouldn't be surprised to hear of some damage out there, and some fire spread out there as well. So yeah, crazy stuff there yesterday. And this 190, obviously an error out there as well. But yeah, we had some gusty winds out there, and that will continue for some areas today. Again, more out of the northeast today. And I checked some of the tempest weather stations out here as well in this general area, and I don't know the specific site sittings of these locations here, so I'm not sure how accurate these are, but you can see the onset of the winds as we went through 1:30 to 2 o'clock. The wind really started to ramp up there for this station, and then another station I selected here as well, just kind of showing you the quick increase in those winds out of the north between 1:30 to 2 o'clock yesterday. So taking a look at today, this is the North American model. Put this into motion as we go through this afternoon. You can still see we got these strong winds out of the northeast across eastern Washington, kind of northeast out across portions of Oregon, and that will continue through the day today and become a bit more easterly. It's still kind of gusty out there as we go through tonight, but once we get into Wednesday, look how quick the winds drop off here as we go through the day Wednesday. As we really relax the gradient, things get a bit more squirrely out there. Maybe some dust devil chasing. Might go out and try to do that tomorrow across portions of eastern Washington. And yeah, we really relax these winds as we go through tomorrow. Then as we go through tomorrow night, you see the winds pick up a little bit here, but not as strong as what we were getting with that last system that came through last night. And you can really see the terrain feature that is the Okanagan River Valley here as I bounce and toggle back and forth with some of these model runs. Yeah, it is right there. Nice cold air conduit in the winter time that goes from eastern Washington all the way back up into British Columbia. And you felt the wrath of that yesterday. If we look at the high resolution rapid refresh, zoomed in a bit here, as we go through the afternoon and evening hours today, you can kind of see that northeast flow coming down across the region. And again, the gusty winds lasting on in through tonight. So this is what brought those strong winds. You can see the high pressure there, strong pressure gradient, lower pressure down here across portions of Idaho as this moved across the region yesterday. And then, of course, that system sliding down and across out of our area. But you can see this is why we're still getting the northeast winds. We got this higher pressure back across the interior of the Rockies, helping to stir some of those winds back down across the area. Bit of a thermal trough right along the Oregon-Washington coast there as well, helping with that pressure gradient a bit today. But as we scroll through the day Wednesday, you can see that thermal trough right over the top of western Washington up towards southwest BC, and giving us our warm weather. Another fairly warm day here on Thursday, but you see that pressure gradient really relaxes here across the area. And even with these next systems coming up as we go through this weekend, you see we don't have a huge pressure gradient. We're not going to be looking at the strong damaging winds as we go through this upcoming weekend, but we will be kicking back on an onshore flow. Mother Nature's air conditioning will be revisiting places, especially west of the mountains as we go towards this upcoming weekend. And then we'll scroll off towards the end of the run here and nothing special to show you. But taking a look at the European model, excuse me, a bit of a frog in my throat here this morning. So taking a look at the European model, we're going to scroll through what is to come here. There's that next week system here. Again, not much in the way of precipitation for that unless you're across the Rockies of BC, Alberta, maybe northern Montana. We scroll off in towards this weekend, and you can see that next system trying to come by here. It's going to kick that flow back onshore, but it's not bringing a lot of precipitation to western Washington. The model's dropped off here in the last 24 hours. If we take a look at this total precipitation, I'm going to scroll through the 6-day period here pretty quickly. You can see the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia and some of western Washington. A little bit of precipitation starts to show up there on the day Wednesday. It's going to cool things down, but again, don't expect a lot of precipitation out of the system that is coming this weekend. Maybe a few hundredths of an inch for the higher terrain, maybe the coastal areas here, and who knows, maybe a little bit of drizzle or a stray shower or whatnot, but not amounting to much. So 2-meter temperature anomaly. Look as we go through the day today. again, the warm spot across western British Columbia, Vancouver Island, Seattle, Portland, Willamette Valley as we go through the day today. But then the heat starts to bounce back east of the mountains as well a bit here. But as we go through the weekend, look at the blues start to return. I know the Mossbacks like to see that the onshore flow gets going for this weekend. And I showed this yesterday here. This is the 10 highest recorded temperatures at Seattle Tacoma International Airport. I was alive for all of these except for the 1961 August 8th. But yeah, look at this one right there. Again, I know most of you remember this probably. June 28th, 2021, 108 degrees. I wonder if I will ever see that beaten in my lifetime. I have a hunch we'll probably try to approach it a couple times, but yeah, who knows on that front. Because if you got the same ridge that we had in June 2021 during the month of July, we would probably push 110 degrees at SeaTac. But anyway, yeah, that 3-day stretch you can see is right there. There's a 103-degree day back in 2009, July 29th. I know a lot of you remember that one. And the only other time 100 degrees has ever been reached was on July 20th, 1994. I remember that one as well. I was living on Kent East Hill near Lake Meridian. What a day. So this is the National Blend of Models 2-meter temperature today, July 15th. Look at Seattle, 87. Look at some 90s showing up there for Southwest BC, right away from the water. Some mid-90s out there for places like Portland. This is for today. And then look at tomorrow. Portland could be approaching the upper 90s. You might even get a 100-degree reading across some of the Willamette Valley tomorrow. Some lower to mid-90s here for some of Western Washington for tomorrow as well. And then we go to Thursday. We cooled things back down, but still pretty darn right warm here west of the Cascades. You can see the coastal area starting to cool off a bit there. Very warm east of the mountains. And we go through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Look at the temperatures drop back down there as we go through Sunday. Kick that onshore flow back on. A little bit better sleeping conditions for those of you without air conditioning across some of western Washington, western Oregon. And then we go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're going to bounce back some of those temperatures next week. Who knows? We'll have to take a look at that at a later date. So Portland, you can see the European for today, 93 degrees, and tomorrow 98, getting pretty close to 100 degrees. And we start to get the cool down here as we go through the upcoming weekend and on in through early next week. Seattle, Tacoma, look at the European saying 95 degrees for SeaTac. Wouldn't be shocked to see those temperatures pop up there. We're not going to hit the all-time daily record high. I believe it is actually 98 degrees if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and check, but you can scroll back in the video and check my work right now. Anyway, look at that, upper 80s for today. A very warm day. Thursday and Friday, pretty warm days as well. And then the cool down starts to come this weekend. So extended outlook here. So let's take a look here at that ridge. As you can see, the next system starts to drop down here as we go through Wednesday night. That's just going to cool us off ever so slightly for the day on Thursday. And then another one comes as we go through this weekend. That'll cool us down a little bit here. Maybe a little bit of precipitation happening on the day Sunday with this trough around. And look at this ridge just dominating the Gulf of Alaska as we go on into the early portion of next week. And again, we'll be playing this cat and mouse game with this ridge as we go on into the following week here. How much are we going to warm up versus cool down? And then you can see another trough moving through Western Canada. And again, these ones that approach from the northwest at this time of year are not very wet at all here for Western Washington, Western Oregon, and a lot of the state really, and a lot of the region. You're just not getting a lot of precipitation from that unless you're across some of the Rocky Mountains in the higher terrain. But you can see that troughing kind of hanging on as we go towards the end of the month. And that would be good for keeping temperatures suppressed here because July 29th is really peak here across the Pacific Northwest as far as heat is concerned. So taking a look at the European ensemble mean 15-day precipitation anomaly, you can clearly see the signal that's been showing up the last several days here. And then you can see the interior areas above normal versus the Cascades west up into western BC. Same picture there is apparent on the GFS ensemble mean, which has 30 members. And again, there is the record high. Okay, so I saved this one here. So we got 98 degrees back in 1979 for Wednesday, July 16th. Our record is 98 degrees. We're probably not getting there for SeaTac. That's a tough one to break there. Very hot conditions. Now look at the 6 to 10 day. Kind of agree with that. A little bit below normal signal showing up here. Do not agree with that at all. This is just complete trash. You can throw this out right now. I can tell you that. And if you want to support the channel, their Patreon page is a good way to do it. You can sign up. It is free, or you can donate some of your hard-earned money to help support the channel. But yeah, you should be getting my daily updates here. It'll give you some email updates as well if you're not getting the updates from YouTube. I know there's been some issues with that. Channel's doing pretty good. We're starting to go back up again here. I know YouTube has been doing some bot cleaning, but yeah, we are up over 98,000 subscribers. Maybe the next big weather event here across the region, we will go up over 100,000. YouTube has emailed me. They're letting me know they are prepared to send me the silver plaque or whatever kind of award thing that is. It's just as much your guys as it is mine. Thanks for everybody helping to support the channel. Click the join button down below if you want to help support the channel as well. And also, I showed the Tempest weather station. It should be in the link down below also. So if you want to buy one of those, click on that link down below as well. So anyway, yeah, hope you guys are having a good day. Otherwise, we'll check back tomorrow. We'll do it all again, and I will talk to you guys later.